right, Rich. So we just had E3 last week. A lot went down at the press conferences and on the show floor. But one curiosity of mine related actually to the trailers. And EA Sports put out a bunch of trailers at E3. They do it every year. They're promoting their upcoming games. And I just was curious. This is not scientific, but I was just curious. What were the view numbers for these trailers? And are those numbers representative of how popular the games are and how they sell? So when we're researching these numbers, we're looking at the official E3 trailers from EA Sports on their EA Sports YouTube account. And I went back just the past 2 years, keep things relevant in the current generation of systems or in that transition to the current generation of systems. And what you find is a lot of consistency there. But with Madden, it's kind of also an abnormality compared to the other games. So in the case of Madden 25, lifetime views, 1 million. Madden 15, lifetime views, 1.2 million. Now we're projecting a little bit on the current numbers because these trailers have only been out a little over a week now. But based on what I've looked up, it's about half of what these trailers will eventually have. So Madden right now is sitting at 660,000 views. So it's right about in line. Again, I mentioned consistency. It's going to pass Madden 25's million, and it's going to finish up almost exactly around where Madden 15 was. Now, that sounds good for Madden, right? But when you compare it to the other games, it's really not. So FIFA, the biggest sports game in the world, the biggest game in the world every year. FIFA 14 had 10 million views for its trailer. FIFA 15 had 13 million. FIFA 16 has crossed 5 million. So it's on pace for double digits also. Now, this is where it really gets interesting because FIFA, we know, is huge. So those numbers were anticipated. But NBA Live 14, 1.3 million, despite selling like no copies, right? Live 15 was a no-show. They didn't do anything last year at E3. Live 16, 600,000 views already. And, this stood out to me because, number one, it's near Madden's number of views, despite their sales being completely, on opposite ends of the spectrum. Live sells about, or at least last year, it sold about 3% of what Madden sold, but its view numbers are almost identical at this point. It's only 60,000 behind, which is practically nothing at this point. NHL 16, or let's start with NHL 14, actually, 400,000 views. It exploded for NHL 15, remember, because this was its debut. Yeah. Its debut on the new systems. It had taken the year off from the new system, so interest was high. So it exploded to 2 million, which is crazy to think about because that means it had more views than Madden last year. NHL 16 already at 540,000 views, so that's going to top 1 million views also. Wow. So again, NHL only within 120,000 views of Madden, and NHL sells under 10% of what Madden does. So I'm curious your reaction on that first, Rich, after laying all that out there for everybody, and hopefully it makes some sense. I didn't throw too many numbers at you, but your first reaction kind of to what you think that might mean, if it means anything.
Well, first of all, I love this stuff. Numbers, quantitative analysis. This is like my favorite thing. I'm actually surprised, and I know these are just the official E3 trailers. There's lots of other media, lots of other information out about it, but I'm actually surprised that the numbers are what they are. I would have thought that they would have been higher. Not the FIFA numbers; those sound kind of more normal to me. That's the first thing. I think the second thing that stands out to me is people are really interested in NBA Live, not necessarily for all of the reasons that EA may hope they are interested in it.
Yeah.
But I think it validates at least a little bit of a sentiment that I have noticed, and I've even asked the NBA Live guys when I talk to them if they've noticed, is that people are rooting for this game. People want more good games, and I'm happy that NBA Live 16 is being made. I'm hoping that it's better than it was last year, and last year it was better than it was the year before. It's got such an interesting battle with NBA 2K because 2K is just so great. And again, with NHL, it's right up there with the other big guys. There's, this is a big bounce back year for that. And again, I get the sense that people are really interested. There are a lot of longtime NHL fans who are ready, I think, and a lot of them will be willing to come back if the game is good. And it seems like a lot of those guys are checking it out. So, yeah, those are my initial reactions to these numbers. Good stuff.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on a few things there. First is that NBA Live, and I don't know if it's interest or just curiosity, but what it tells me is there's a huge market for NBA games. We know that now because the 2K series has taken full advantage of that, and they've grown it. Yep. There's a place there for 2 NBA games. They can live together. Now, Live has to overcome a lot of barriers it's placed in its own way over the years to get there. We've talked about many times that people can have an interest in Live, but if they're making a decision between 2 basketball games, that decision is pretty easy to make in most people's minds. And if they're making a decision with several other sports games that release within a few weeks of it, again, that probably falls on the bottom. But there's the potential there. What that says to me is there's the potential there if the game is really good, if they put out a really quality effort with features that maybe the competition doesn't have, the series could grow. Doesn't mean it will. I think it's just the potential is there. And that's why EA stuck with basketball this long, because they know the market's there that could support 2 games. And if they grow, they know they can make a lot of digital revenue on an Ultimate Team. The other thing, one of the other things is NHL. I think what you see is people are giving it another chance. They're still interested in the game after last year. After everything that went down last year, there's still interest in the game. And it's not just it's mostly a North America thing, but there's also overseas markets that appeal to NHL. And then the third, and this is the one that stood out to me, is there's just an apathy around Madden. And what these numbers say is nobody really cares what's in the trailer. Nobody believes necessarily what's in the trailer. But come late August, they still end up buying it. And that, EA has to kind of break out of that at some point, I think. They're going to have to shake it up in some way. Word of mouth is going to have to carry positive word of mouth. It's going to have to be some kind of really strong year that affects a lot of people to change that perception. Because right now, the Madden trailer views should not be in the range of NBA Live and NHL. It just shouldn't, based on how many people buy these games every year. So that's what I saw with Madden was, I don't know if people believe the stuff they put in trailers anymore. Madden, or maybe that's just that flashy stuff they put in the trailers doesn't appeal to the people who are watching these events or following them on YouTube or Twitter or writing about it in forums. So I think there is some interesting stuff to glean from these numbers, even though, again, it's unscientific. But most of what we do is unscientific.
And, again, the other thing that just stands out more than anything else is, wow, FIFA 10 times exponentially larger. 13 million for FIFA 15, 13 times the amount of Madden. I mean, just amazing. Again, it makes total sense. You're talking about literally around the world. There's the number of people that are interested in FIFA is significantly larger. But it's fascinating stuff. That's why I love it. Real numbers always are interesting.
Yeah, we don't get real numbers very often, but at least these numbers are public, and it does say something about the games, I think. And like you said, but even in the case of FIFA, that if it sells around let's say 15 million copies every year worldwide. That's not 15 times what Madden sells. That's only 3 times or about what Madden sells. So Madden is kind of the outlier in all this. Although you could also look at NHL and NBA Live and see that their trailer numbers exceed the number of people who end up buying their game by far. So yeah, it was just something I was curious about looking and I saw that that trend there. For these games, which is interesting for games that don't sell very much, and then Madden, which does sell quite a bit. And I also have to wonder if modes like Ultimate Team factor in here, because does the Ultimate Team player in Madden care about an E3 trailer? I don't know. They might not. But then again, there's a ton of Ultimate Team people who in FIFA, and that one seems to gain a lot of traction in trailers.
Well, I also think there's a significant number of people who have been burned by E3 trailers of the past, which we have listed, on Hit the Pass.
Madden worse than others.
Exactly. So there's also that. So I think that history has also reduced the enthusiasm for any of that. And you know what? I'll be completely frank. I could care less about the trailers. Show me the game and let me play the game come September. Trailers, just do absolutely nothing for me personally. Again, not saying they should or shouldn't for others, but I could care less too. So,
Yeah, trailers are just that's what tends to get shared more so than information and reach the most amount of people. But, I think it'll be interesting. We'll have to revisit kind of the numbers again once these games come out and see if they ended up telling us anything about where these games are going. Did NHL actually recover? Was this the first sign of NHL's recovery? Did NBA Live show growth? Was this the first sign of that? I think it'll be interesting. We'll just have to revisit that again in October or so.